what you need to know is that it actually is divinely orchestrated for it to be a lonely journey, because it's a calling for you to tune within you and to connect with yourself and to purge all of the things that you haven't wanted to face, or to confront the things about yourself.
Hey, soul family. Welcome to the Alive and Awake podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kay, and I have spent the last 20 years teaching people how to work with their wounds and overcome their greatest fears so they can learn how to thrive in a world where they were only taught to conform. Each week, we will dive deep into the practical, the spiritual, and the mystical so I can teach you how to do the inner work to know yourself, trust yourself, and eventually love yourself enough to create a world where you feel fully alive, awake, and free. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode. Ready? Let's dive in.
Welcome to another episode. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune in this week. I am so excited to be with you once again. Today we have a pretty juicy topic. I was really feeling into what the collective needs to hear right now. And so I felt really prompted in my spirit to talk about what is a spiritual awakening and what happens when someone starts to go through this process where they are becoming more aware of the spiritual realm and something else out there existing, and feeling a little bit confident about that, but also being really rattled inside and being shaken up because of what's going on internally. And as you know, I am a light worker, a twin flame, a psycho-spiritual coach, a trauma therapist. Like, I have seen so many people come into my office and be like, Alicia, what the F is going on with me? I feel like I'm going crazy. And chances are, if that's you and you're starting to question everything, and a lot is happening and a lot is going on, and you're doing these things that your ego wants to say are not good for you or don't fit into societal standards, chances are your higher self is initiating you into a spiritual awakening. So stay tuned and make sure that you hit that like button, that subscribe button, or that you share this with somebody that you know who is also going through some radical life changes. And just support the channel, because the more you do, the more we can get this awesome information out there. So yeah, if you're listening to me, chances are you've either already went through it, you're in it right now, and you're being faced with a lot of internal chaos. A lot of things are getting disrupted in your life. You may be going through something called a tower moment, where you're losing your job, your marriage, something's going on with your kids, there's death or loss. Like, there's a big wave of people right now going through the thick of it. And luckily, I'm what's considered the first wave of light workers to go through their expansion, so that I can help you understand what's going on, not only on an emotional level, but on a spiritual level, and potentially what your higher self is asking you to take a look at or to consider. So the first thing to know is that a spiritual awakening is something that is a divinely orchestrated time for, I don't want to say each person or every person, because there are some people on the planet that choose to come in and just be grid workers, where they just have like a really, I don't want to say normal, I don't like that word. They have a specific job to do here on the planet, and their job isn't necessarily to wake up or, channel into divine information. They are meant to just hold space, and they're meant to be the workers of the planet who give us the ability to wake up and come to terms with our own divinity. So not every single soul chooses to wake up or to explore that. And it is not our job to wake anybody up or force them into their expansion. Every single person on the planet is equally important and has their own job and their own reason for why they're here. And it is never our job to enforce our own beliefs and our own dynamics onto anybody that we know. So I just want to put that out there as a disclaimer that this is meant to be for you to explore and see what feels right for you, for potentially what you or someone else that you know may be going through at this time as Mother Earth starts to disrupt a lot of the dense energy that she's been holding on to for centuries of war, of murder, of rape, of like oppression and suppression of her children and of her creation. And we're really going through the thick of it on the planet. And as Mother Earth starts to raise her consciousness and starts to raise her level of expansion to be able to hold more light, we are also meant to do that too. So don't be surprised if you're feeling a lot of like roller coaster vibes where you're on this high and then you're on this low. We are directly connected to the earth. That whether you're identify as masculine or whether you identify as feminine, you may be experiencing it differently, but it is happening internally, right? As above, so below, as without, so within. So when your higher self chooses a divinely orchestrated time for you to start to wake up to your mission, to your purpose, to who you are outside of your ego and your persona and the ways of this world, there are a series of things that you go through in order to be ready for that. And then you start to go through something that is really incredibly challenging on a human level. So there's lots of different ways that the higher self, and mind you, when I say higher self, it's like your soul that is in direct connection and in communication with God, with the creator consciousness, with the universe, with source, Wankan Tonkin, like whatever you choose to call the energy that exists on the earth plane that created you is your choice. Everything is welcome here. There's no judgment. I say God because it's pretty universal for what that means for people. But if that's triggering for you, feel free to use your own language. Like, I fully believe that every person has their own path for what their soul chose for how they relate to that higher power. However, for today, your higher self, before you came into existence, developed a plan for your life and was the architect for the things that you came here to work through and the work that you came here to do on the planet, not only for yourself and your own soul, but for the greater good and the consciousness of humanity. And so when you get to that point, mine just so happened to be when I was, in my 30s, and everything starts to get disrupted and you start to wake up spiritually. And the way that that happens, unfortunately, comes with a lot of turmoil and tumultuous pain where things get disrupted. So, the ways that the higher self will choose for each individual soul to wake up is through many different avenues. It can look like illness or like chronic illness and pain, where you are forced to really tune into your body and connect with spirit and connect with source. It can look like a near death experience where there's significant loss and like your soul leaves your body and merges with your human self in real time. If you've ever read any books or watched any videos on near death experiences, it's pretty profound how the soul sort of like leaves the body and is like witnessing things happening around, and it is in like an alternate reality. And that is actually meant for the soul to come back into the body and start to fulfill its mission as a spiritual being, here in a human body. Other ways that the soul chooses for people to wake up or expand is through like they start to have an identity crisis where they start to question every single thing about themselves. Who am I? Why am I here? What's going on? What is this world really about? They may take a lot of solo journeys. They may spend time in solitude where they really start to ask themselves those deeper questions and really dig deep into their psyche to figure out those answers, which will lead them on a more spiritual and awakened path. Other ways are through like psychedelics. Some people will be called to go the plant medicine or psychedelic route, where they start to tune into alternate realities and start to really work through their subconscious with plant medicine assistance. Other people may choose to go through like a Kundalini awakening, where they're at a retreat somewhere and all of a sudden they have like this out of body experience where their energetic light body starts to merge with their human body, and they start to feel like the world around them isn't real and they have all this like expansion happening. Another way is through a twin flame connection, which just so happens to be my spiritual awakening route that I'm incredibly familiar with. So we'll also do another podcast on that eventually someday. So it's through relationships that people start to wake up spiritually and energetically, and their higher self starts to come online. And so all of those paths that I just mentioned come with an incredible amount of pain, because you are faced with life as you knew it being radically shifted and challenged. Every single thing about your life and yourself and the world, you start to question. And that's why I said people feel like they're going crazy. And when I was going through my awakening, it was really lonely. And a lot of people that I know that are going through it, like they feel so alone, like they can't talk to anybody about the things that they're going through, because to their friends and to their family, like it just doesn't make sense. A lot of, practitioners out there will want to diagnose them with like mental disorders or make them feel like they're going crazy or go on meds. Like, not to say that that's not helpful for, some people, and to deter that if that feels like the right route for you. Like, I'm not here to give medical advice for what you feel called to do or to judge that in any way. But I'm just saying that the 3D world will not understand what it is that you're going through, or will be able to put the spiritual spin on it, because oftentimes they haven't had their own awakenings yet, and they just don't know what they don't know. And the truth is, I didn't necessarily know that either when I was working with clients that had, PTSD, or were in their dark night of the souls, or were in their deep, deep suffering. And not to say that I wasn't able to help them, because I had a trauma perspective and I was always getting to the root cause, and it was able to do incredible work. But when you start to talk to other people about it, they just look at you like you have two heads. Like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't get it. It's not that they don't care, but they just can't meet you where you're at. So it feels like an incredibly, incredibly lonely journey. But what you need to know is that it actually is divinely orchestrated for it to be a lonely journey, because it's a calling for you to tune within you and to connect with yourself and to purge all of the things that you haven't wanted to face, or to confront the things about yourself, either that has happened to you or that you did to another person, or things that you aren't proud of, that you're embarrassed about, that you're ashamed about, that you don't want to face. It will confront you with that. It is meant to do just that, because its whole purpose is to remove anything that is not you and is not your true self, that you've accumulated not only in this lifetime, but in every lifetime you've ever existed here on the earth plane, so that you can come into alignment with the truth of your divinity and who you are outside of the social programming and the patriarchy and the ways of this world, so you can know who you are and unconditionally, unapologetically accept yourself and feel comfortable in your own skin, and know what you're here to do, and know how you're called to serve, and know what you're supposed to do in these next phases of your life. And the only way that you can get to those conclusions is if you're willing to radically face yourself. And so it's a very, very emotionally painful journey to go through, which usually lasts about like 3 to 4 years. Like, I remember when my spiritual teacher said, you're about to go through a 3 year expansion, where at the end of your expansion, you will know Jesus as your brother, and he will be introducing you to his father. And she didn't say in heaven, but like that's what I was Christian back then. So like it sort of related to me in that way. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I can't wait. This is so cool. Right. I was super excited. But she also said that a part of you unconsciously, under the conscious level, is trembling because it knows that you're about to embark on a journey, and it's trembling for what's to come. And at the time, of course, that didn't make sense to me because I had no idea why a part of me would be trembling. I'm like, this sounds amazing. Like I'm gonna meet Father God. Like, yeah. And looking back on those 3 years, they were the most painful, gut wrenching, heart wrenching years of my life because I was confronted with, so many shadows and so many things about myself that I didn't want to admit and I didn't want to face, let alone speak out loud to another person about the things that I did that I was ashamed of, and about the things that happened to me as a child that I wanted to bury for the rest of my life and never confront. And so even as a therapist, like I've done so much trauma work, like lots and lots of trauma work to even be able to be ready for a spiritual awakening. But when the soul starts to do that work within you, it is a depth of pain and emotional release that I didn't know that I needed. And I'm so glad that I was able, to do it and that I had the tools that I had. But when you're going through it alone, or you're not aware of it, or you don't have the clinical knowledge of what's happening or why, it can feel really scary. That's why it's so important to get with a spiritual teacher or a professional to help you through this process. And it's why I've also developed my online course, which is actually going on sale and launching next Friday, by the way, which we can tap a little bit more into, at the end of this podcast. So stay tuned for that. But it feels like everything is disrupted. Like you feels like you're on shaky ground. It feels like all of your dreams, you start to, become super, super emotional, like you're on this roller coaster, and it's meant to be that way. And so you are actually meant to face certain patterns of numbing, avoiding, escaping, blaming, confronting or shaming, or anything that is you're doing that's like an unhelpful pattern that you can't bring into your next phase of expansion, you will be forced to look at. The reason that I say one of the things that my soul chose to wake up was a twin flame connection was because I was forced to face everything in myself that was making me codependent on a relationship where I felt like I unconsciously needed a relationship in order to make me feel whole or make me feel secure or support me or take care of me or be there for me or whatever. And so I was getting into all of these unhealthy dynamics, or like these situations with men that were not supporting my essence as a feminine, where there was like hierarchical relationships where there was abuse and control and all of the things that I came into this life experiencing, I essentially was repeating in my relationship. So of course, my soul would choose a relationship for me to wake up. But when you're in it, again, whether that's a near-death experience or whether that's a chronic illness or whether that is a psychedelic journey or whatever that is, like you are meant to face yourself in the patterns and the things that you're doing through your ego that is making you feel a false sense of security or a false attachment to the ways of this world that you think you need in order to survive, right? It's meant to get you out of that survival mode and put your trust into the divine intelligence that birthed you into existence. And so it wants to strip away anything that you're attaching to that you think you need in order to get by. which is why it's called like a tower moment where like everything starts to just crash down and you're almost in this like dark night of the soul where you're confronted with the ways that your ego has formed itself to have really unhealthy attachments to people, to money, to relationships, to men, to your job, like whatever it is, it's going to make you face that where it's like, no, son, daughter, your security needs to come from me. So it's not that God does this in order to punish. It's that your higher self does this so that you can hold more of your higher self energy into your human body. So it's working through your chakra systems in order to break apart the dense emotional trauma and pain and feelings of unworthiness and feelings of helplessness or fear, really, like anything that's causing fear in you. It's meant to vibrate through and bring up to the surface so that you can face it and feel it and purge it so that newer level of consciousness and new insight and awareness can come into your body so that you can hold that instead of the energy that you've been holding for the first half of your life. So it all has to be disrupted. So you'll be forced, if you choose, to face your mother wounding and your father wounding. And anytime you've ever been hurt by a woman or a man in this life, because your body and your nervous system doesn't want to hold on to that. Because if you're holding on to wounding from that, then you cannot trust the divine mother and the divine father to support you and provide for you and protect you and take care of you because you're still associating and you're projecting your wounding from your mother and father onto the divine consciousness that is the essence of who you are. So it's meant to bring all of that to the surface with like abandonment wounds and with addiction and with like all of these things that we carry through our family line because your energetic light body can't hold on to that anymore. And so you will be faced with a lot of this work. And oftentimes you'll be feeling like intense shame or intense blame or intense rage. And then you'll go back to feeling like this bliss where you feel like connected to source or connected to God. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I feel so good. I feel so high. I never knew I could feel this good. And then you'll have the pitfall of coming and crashing down. And so it's meant, these initiations are meant to expose you to these opposite polarities because it's the polarity of both extremes. Okay, sorry about that, fam. My internet got disrupted as it's been pretty tumultuous weather-wise here in Buffalo. But what I was saying is that the frequency that your higher self is wanting you to hold and wanting you to merge with is unconditional love for yourself and all parts of you. And therefore, when you get to hold that energy for yourself, it organically and automatically extends into other things in life, like the people that you love, the planet, your communities. Like you're giving from a full cup because you learn how to trust yourself and you start to set those boundaries with the things that are no longer working for you and are robbing you of your highest state of joy, of expansion, of bliss, of fun, of play. Like that is who we are on a soul level. And we are going through a time right now where there's massive awakening happening on the planet. So you have to work through these things in order to be able to hold more of your true authentic self and bring that and birth that into the world. And so we are embarking on a time where, there's the first wave of light workers. So you may have already went through this expansion, And then there's the second wave and the third wave and the fourth wave. And so people are going to keep waking up to the truth of who they are and why they're here, and remembering that we are all one heart, one race, one human family. And as the Divine Mother starts to heal herself, we start to heal ourselves as a collective and repair the wounds with our own emotion and our own feminine energy within us, so that we can co-create heaven here on earth and ascend into a higher level of dimension with the way that not only we see ourselves, but the way we see each other through the eyes of God and the divine, and realizing that we are all interconnected, and the things that are going on in the planet are getting disrupted because it's not of the highest level or form of consciousness. So as Mother Earth starts to reset herself, we are being energetically reset as well. And you'll notice sometimes that as you're going through these spiritual awakenings, you'll have ascension symptoms. Like you'll maybe go to the doctor and maybe you have like bloating or cramping or discomfort or something going on in your stomach or your womb space, and the doctor can't explain it. And there's nothing there that they can find. And so therefore it means that you're going through ascension symptoms, which feel really freaking awful, by the way. And eventually you just start to learn that my body's doing what my body needs to do because it's meant to hold more of a higher frequency. And you need people to support you through this process who get it and who can help you understand what to work through and what to explore and what to dive deeper in, including like holotropic breath work or somatic breath work, or deep dive journaling and inner child work and trauma healing work and somatic work. Like all these things are meant to help you be able to heal and rise into the highest version of yourself that your soul chose for you in this life, which is why I love doing the work that I do on the planet. Because not only have I gone through it myself, I have extensive background with therapy and trauma and all this work, and why I've decided to create this amazing online course to coach people just like you who are going through these symptoms and these emotions, and they don't know how to explain it and they don't know how to deal with it, and they need answers and support. So it's going to be amazing. And it launches on Friday. So mark your calendars. If you are someone out there who needs support from someone like me or a professional, or you know someone that does, we are going to be going through 6 amazing modules to reclaim your worth, reclaim your voice, really work through that patterning and that programming so that you're not playing small and you're not thinking you have to be perfect, and you break through fears and you conquer the lies within you that the inner adversarial voice wants to use to attack your consciousness and keep you from stepping in to your divine feminine power, so you can co-create the life you want with the divine essence that lives inside of you. It is going to be powerful, where you'll get your own peer-led community and Facebook group, and you'll get my guidance and 6 amazing workbooks for you to dive into the inner work for what your soul is trying to call you toward, with the support of an amazing community with people who are just like you. So I can't wait to get this information out there. I'm going to be doing some live teaching with every single module. The first live teaching is starting on February 12th. So mark your calendars and get ready for this course to launch, because it is divinely channeled, it is divinely orchestrated, and I've had tons of adversarial attacks coming against me this month because the dark forces on the planet do not want me to put this out there. But I am determined to give it to you all, because I know that you need it. And I know that the collective is starving for answers to know what the heck is going on with them so they can step into their power and remember the truth of their divinity as they go into this next phase of expansion on the planet. So thank you all for tuning in. Sorry I had to record the second part of my episode on Zoom, but I was like, something out there doesn't want me to get this information to you. So we just roll with the punches and we do what we need to do here. And I am so excited to spend this next year with you, bringing more divinely orchestrated information so that we can help you on your spiritual awakening, so you can step into your highest form of authentic truth and bring your medicine into the planet in your own beautiful, unique way. I love you. Thank you for tuning in again, and I can't wait to see you again next week.